guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. So today I thought I would just do kind of a pregnancy and labor and delivery type video. As you guys know, this is a like mom life or lifestyle type channel, so I thought it was only fitting that I eventually do a labor and delivery video. I found out that I was pregnant late September, early October. My period had skipped 2 months, and usually it may skip 1 month or whatever, but skipping 2 months was pretty unusual for me. I didn't have any morning sickness or any telltales that I was pregnant. I kind of just took it to take it just because I was like, I missed another period. So I took it. Yes, I turned out I was pregnant. I went to the doctors and picked out my midwife and nutritionist and all that jazz and get myself set up with like all the different benefits you can get. So I did that, and I didn't have my first ultrasound until Halloween. So when I went in for Halloween, I only thought I was like 8 weeks pregnant or something like that, guessing by when my last period was. I was 21 weeks the day of my ultrasound. 21 weeks. Like, she was like a full baby at that point, and like it was kind of weird seeing that she already had her face and her arms and stuff, and it's kind of cool, but I kind of do wish that I found out earlier just to see her growth. But nonetheless, it was still amazing to see that she was in there. I found out that she was a girl the same day. I mean, I wasn't too interested in a gender reveal at that point. I know probably for my next child I will do one, but it didn't really interest me back then, and I don't really wish I did it, so I have no regrets. I just didn't do it. So yeah, I'm just gonna fast forward to when I was 9 months and about ready to pop, because I had a very smooth pregnancy. I just had the typical like feet swelling and back pain and like headaches, and my nipples got bigger, stretch marks, you know, like things like that I obviously got. But any like weird things like morning sickness or like hypertension or preeclampsia, like I didn't have any of that, so I had a very smooth pregnancy. Okay, so my due date was March 11th. The day was slowly approaching, but we weren't seeing any of the early signs of labor, and I wasn't high risk, so we were just kind of letting it run its course. I know some people even push it to 42 weeks and then they would start talking induction, but they wanted to schedule an appointment for me for when I was 42 weeks, just to do an ultrasound and see kind of like how my fluids are, see how the baby is, and just see how long we can kind of carry this, or if we should do it sooner. So the morning of my appointment wasn't until 11:30 or something like that, and I woke up at 5 in the morning with contractions. Super bad contractions. It was almost like she was like, hey, I heard you guys were kicking me out, so I got this. So I started having like the worst fucking contractions ever. I'm still able to talk through them, even though they're the worst ever. Well, even though you think it's the worst ever, it gets worse than that. So I was dying. I thought I was dying. I was like, these are fucking terrible. So I was talking with Nick, and I was like, but they weren't super close together yet. You're supposed to go by the 5-1-1 rule. So you're supposed to have contractions every 5 minutes that last a minute long, and like for a whole hour consecutively. They weren't that close yet. It was like every like 7 or 8 minutes or something, and I was tracking them, and they weren't even like very constant. It was kind of like it would be 8 minutes apart, and then it would be 4, and then it would be 12, and then like it was all over the place. It wasn't very consistent. So around 9 o'clock I decided to call my midwife and just let her know that I'm going through contractions, letting her know that it isn't 5 minutes apart yet, so I'm not sure what's going on, but that it has been going on since 5 in the morning, so maybe to get ready for me. I end up, what my plan was, my appointment was for 11:30. I left the house at 10:30. I was gonna go to Dunkin' Donuts, get myself a coffee and whatever, and then go to my appointment. I mean, I was still going through contractions this entire time, but I wanted something to eat. So we went to Dunkin' Donuts. Then as we're leaving Dunkin' Donuts, it's right at like an intersection. So as soon as you leave, you're at an intersection, and the light was still green. As we're approaching, it turns yellow, and we get through the intersection. Well, it's still yellow, mind you. I don't know what this cop was talking about, but we got pulled over. Yeah, the officer is sitting there asking Nick questions like, did you know you blew the red light, da da da, where are you going, where are you trying to go in a rush? And he's like, my girlfriend's in fucking labor right now. And the officer like peeks his head in the window just to kind of like make sure he's not lying. So I'm sitting there panting through a contraction, and I look at him and I'm like, yeah, I'm going through fucking labor. And he's like, do you want me to call an ambulance? And we're like, no, we want to get to the hospital. I'm not waiting for an ambulance. I'm in a car on our way to the hospital. Just let us keep going. So they kind of go back and forth for a little bit, him and Nick, because he keeps trying to offer us this ambulance, which we keep denying and saying that we don't need. But this guy is very persistent. So after like 2 minutes later, he finally is just like, all right, I'll escort you. So we end up getting a police escort to the fucking hospital. And they have like wheelchairs up front for people who need them. The officer asked me if I wanted one. I denied, and I just went right to the front desk while Nick was like parking and all that and talking to the officer still. So I start checking myself in. The lady's like freaking out or whatever. It seemed like it was maybe like her first day or something, or maybe she was just startled or whatever. But I walked up, I was like, hi, I'm in labor. And she like rushes over and gets me a wheelchair and puts me in it. And we go to the booking, or where you go to check in, I guess booking would be what it's called. So we go there and get myself checked in, and the contractions start getting really, really bad at that point. They were about 5 minutes apart, maybe 4 minutes apart. So really bad. I finished the booking process, and then we made our way upstairs to the maternity ward. So after the ultrasound, we make our way back up to the maternity ward. Up in the maternity ward, all of the like labor and delivery rooms were full. So I was down in one of, I think it's called like a triage room, where they still have the same setup with like the things that go around your stomach to track you and the baby. They still have that, but you just can't deliver in that room. It's a very, very cramped up room. So we're hanging out in there a little bit. Nick was waiting up there with me while I was having the ultrasound, and the nurse comes in and she checks how dilated I am. I'm still only 1 centimeter dilated, even though I had been going through contractions for 5 hours. I still wasn't dilated. She said normally she wouldn't admit somebody when they're only 1 centimeter long, and even though I was having contractions at this point like 5 minutes apart for 1 minute and well over an hour, she still didn't think that it was enough to admit me. But the ultrasound lady said that my fluid was running a little bit low, so they had to. So once the room finally opened up, which was probably around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, one of the rooms opened up, so we were actually able to go up into a normal room. We're hanging out in there. I have Nick go into the house and go grab all the bags and the car seat and stuff, because we didn't think we were going to get admitted either. I thought that they were just going to be like, okay, well, you're not dilated, go home. So I didn't even bother bringing the stuff with me when we were on our way to the hospital, so he had to go back and get them. By around 3 or 4, they checked me again, and I'm still only 1 centimeter dilated. It had been almost 12 hours at that point, and I wasn't progressing any, so they decided to give me something to induce me. They decided to give me Pitocin. I don't know like the qualifications and like why you would get one type sort of induction over another, because I know they have different types of inductions. They have things that they can put inside of you to physically dilate, like they have like a balloon thing that inflates, and then they also have like a stick or whatever that dissolves. I'm not sure why you would get one over the other, but they have different forms, and I got Pitocin, which is an IV drop that slowly, it like forces contractions onto your body, and which by the way makes them 20 times more painful and 20 times more constant than if you were normally going through contractions. Like, it was literally at one point my contractions were like, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was like a 15, and it was back to back. So there, you would normally have like a minute or 2 break in between contractions. I didn't have that because they were being forced on me. It was just like one long 3-minute long contraction, which fucking sucks. Like I said, it was extremely painful, so I was asking if I could get the epidural or if I could get the laughing gas or whatever I could get, and they wanted me to hold off for a little bit and like try different things like the little peanut or like a bouncing ball or whatever. But like, I wanted to go in there with the idea of having a natural labor, but I also didn't think that I was going to need to be induced and have contractions forced on me. So the idea of me having a natural labor was already out the window, because that's a medicine, and then with that, how painful it was, I needed the fucking epidural. So later on, by around 8 o'clock, they finally let me get the laughing gas. I don't know the medical term for it, but that's basically what it is. It's the laughing gas. So it did take the edge off. Like, I was still feeling the contraction, but basically, like, you can feel the contraction coming up, and you can also, they have a chart that matches the tracks your contractions, and so you could see when a contraction is about to build up. So as soon as I would feel like it's about to happen, you inhale really long for the duration of the contraction, and you still feel it, but it's not as painful. I guess it kind of like muffles it, is I guess the best way to explain it. So that helped for a little while. It helped for like 2 hours or so, but by 10 o'clock I was like, I fucking need the epidural. I can't do this anymore. This fucking gas thing is not helping me. Like, I didn't want to do it anymore. By 10 o'clock, they have one of the doctors come in and kind of track me, and at that point I had finally gotten to 4 centimeters, so I was able to get the epidural, because they can't give it to you when you're like 10 centimeters, because that's when you're just ready to push, and that's a little too late. But they also can't give it to you too early, because like for some people it helps like push the contractions up and it helps you deliver faster, but for some people it like kind of slows it down, and they didn't want it to slow me down any more than I was already going. So I was 4 centimeters. They finally gave me the epidural. It was like 10 o'clock, and like about an hour later I fell asleep. I hadn't slept since 5 in the morning. It was 10 o'clock at night. I was tired, and I was pregnant. I was always fucking tired, so this was like extremely tiring for me. So I finally got it. I fell asleep, and it was honestly the best sleep I could have ever gotten. They come in the morning around 7 a.m. I believe, and they check my vitals and switch out my pee bag, because when you get the epidural you have to get a catheter put in, because you're numb from like the waist down, so you can't pee by yourself, so they have to put a catheter in you. And I woke up to her changing that out, and I asked them, I'm like, hey, do you know how dilated I am? She said she'll come and bring in the doctor to come check. So it took the doctor a little while to get to me. It was around 8 in the morning by the time she was able to get to my room. She checked my cervix, and I was finally 10 centimeters dilated. Excuse my squinting, because I'm trying to move as the sun keeps going by, and there's no more room on this table for me to go back anymore, so I have to deal with the sun. So yeah, I start pushing about a half an hour later, and 3 hours goes by and absolutely nothing is happening, because I still have the epidural in me, so it's giving me the drugs every 30 minutes. So every time I'm like starting to get over and I can start feeling again, it's like, okay, here you go, here's more epidural. So I was completely numb the entire time I was pushing. I couldn't feel how hard I was pushing, because I couldn't feel the contractions, and I couldn't feel how hard I needed to push, and it was just a complete shit show in my eyes, honestly. So at that point they started talking C-sections, and that really scared me. And I mean, I had already been kind of like robbed of my want of like a natural labor and like no epidural or anything, and I couldn't have that. So I really wanted a vaginal delivery. And no, it doesn't matter to you whether you have a C-section or vaginal delivery. Either way, as long as you deliver your child, that's all that matters. But for me personally, that's what I wanted for my labor and delivery. Every single person is different, and I want to stress that. Yeah, they give me morphine and a couple other things. I think I can't remember the name of it right now, but they do that. They give me that, and so I'm completely numb down there. They perform an episiotomy on me, I believe it's called, which is where they cut part of you to kind of assist in making it easier for the baby to come out. It's the least graphic way I could put that. So yeah, they do that to me, and they start doing it, and it feels like, it literally feels like they're putting tongs in you and rubbing, like trying to get the right spot so that they could yank her out of you. You feel every bit of it. It's not painful because you're so numb in the morphine and everything, but it is very uncomfortable, and there is literally no other way I can describe it other than something going into you and pulling it out of you. So they do that, and what I didn't know is that you still, like, I know this now, but before I didn't know that when you use the forceps, you still have to push. I had just pushed for 3.5 hours. The last thing I wanted was to keep pushing. I was tired, but obviously you kind of have to. So I do, like, I think it was like 4 really big pushes, and she came out, and it literally just feels like you just got emptied. It was the weirdest feeling ever. Born at 12:45 1:45 in the afternoon, weighing 8 pounds and 0.04 ounces, and she was 21 inches long. She was a beautiful, healthy, long, and honestly super alert baby. She was out of my womb and she was already opening her eyes and looking around, and the doctors were like, what the heck? And I mean, she was cooking in there for an extra week, so it's kind of, I like to think of it as, since she was born so late, she was kind of doing this stuff already, or that she knew to do it sooner. I don't know, that's just what I'd like to think. She was super alert. She latched on super easily the very first day. Like, there was no complications for like 2 weeks. I'll talk more about that in a breastfeeding video, but everything was super smooth after that point. I mean, my labor and delivery was very, very exhausting and very, very hard, but I got through it, and honestly, I would do it a million more times if it meant that I could have her. She is honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me, and even though the labor was a little bit traumatizing, I can't wait to make her a big sister. So that was my pregnancy and labor and delivery video. Thank you guys for watching, and I can't wait to make more videos.